This is a Film Stories original podcast.
We made this. Hello everyone, welcome to the Xcast. The truth is in here, and thank you for joining me. My name is Kurt North, as we continue on with going through the second X-Files feature film, I Want to Believe, minute by minute, like we did with the first feature film, Fight the Future. Thank you for joining me. Before we start, just wanted to go through our preamble at the moment, so we want to please help us spread the word by leaving a 5-star review on your favourite podcast platform. These reviews make a huge difference in reaching people like yourselves, fans like yourselves, and come on the journey for us. So it is much appreciated when people do leave a review, and by 5 stars, it helps us get seen more. Join us on Patreon for exclusive content, for ad-free listening, and for special episodes, and for episodes of this podcast, this actual I Want to Believe minute as well. You'll get early access to the minutes that you're currently hearing. So please feel free to come on our Patreon and you'll get early access to that. You can join us on our Instagram at the Xcast Pod and the Facebook fan group, the X-Files Basement, the Xcast Podcast fan group, which is easy for me to say. So let's keep that connection going. There's plenty of debate and discussion happening over on all those platforms. So by all means, come over and join the conversation. Yes, so we're continuing on our journey through I Want to Believe. We're well into the episodes now. We're currently at minute 49, which is 48 minutes until 48 minutes and 59 seconds. And in this one, we continue with the most VIP person in the entire film, as far as I'm concerned, in the swimming pool attendant. And we actually do switch scenes. So we are now looking at Scully at the operating table. So we do see Christian on the bed and saying now Scully looks scared. And we finish with a reflection of Scully as she prepares for the operation. And joining me, as has been for the last 5 or 6 minutes, is John Kenneth Muir. Okay, so welcome back. We briefly talked about the Roger Hodgkin's character last episode. He then says, does he not know what that's the woman's sigh? When Mulder walks into the women's toilets, changing rooms. But we do change tact here, so we've got about a minute and 50 seconds left of our talk on this film. And again, this one's going to be quite an interesting discussion because there's not actually much in the sense of dialogue, but it's all about theme, it's all about vibe. I think we will talk about the actual wording that's said by Christian, and then get your thoughts on the concept of what happens and what is happening in Scully's life at this moment. But he actually says, now you look scared, to Scully. And we get to the point just before the operation. So we're focusing purely here on the music, that sign, and the vibe, and Scully getting ready for the operation when we see a reflection in the glass before the actual operation kicks in. So first up, Christian Fearon and his condition and Scully's challenge. What do you make to this within the film?
Well, I think when I watched it the first time, I didn't particularly love this subplot, and now I like it very much, and I can clearly see what it's referring to, and I think that we've reached the timeline in the X-Files where not only is Mulder haunted by the past, but Scully is. Mulder has that looming specter always of Samantha. And we've gotten to this point where Scully is haunted by William, by her son with Mulder, that she gave up for good reasons to protect him. But we had the moment early in the film where, they talked about him, how there's this emptiness she feels. It really is a reflection of what Mulder went through with Samantha. It's that she loves this boy, her boy, so much, and yet she can't be with him, right? And there's a sense of that she couldn't save him in some sense in the same way, right? And so she ends up in situations like Mulder now, where every situation, oubliette, what have you, Mulder, he's putting himself in situations where he has to either save Samantha or fail to save Samantha again. Scully is doing the same thing. She's either going to save William, who's Christian this time, or fail to save William, Christian, this time, right? And so when he says, "Are you scared?" Of course she's scared. She's terrified because this boy is her surrogate son. The Christian is William. And then you see her through the glass and you see her reflection staring back at her. And what's staring back at her is her past. It's William and enacting this scenario, playing it out again and again and again.
Yeah, you're right. And as I say, with the idea that Scully's actually going through that, and I think it's actually quite poignant that as much as I didn't like the William storyline, it does give you that aspect of you can actually use Scully as a character and see where she stands as a character, and the conversation about not giving up, obviously over the course of the film, is really pertinent to that. And I think showing her in the previous minutes, just before our minutes for this block, that we actually talked about that a little bit, with obviously Scully standing up to the pressure. What is interesting with that pressure is that you see the Catholic Church actually just kind of going, right, no, there's nothing we can do. That Scully wants to try this procedure out that she's about to do now, right up to the end of the movie, which is probably one of my favorite scenes of the entire run of the X-Files, is Scully's final moment with Christian. And just the amount of pressure that builds and builds and builds into the end of the film. And I think that is really interesting in this film, and I think is a real good point. It's a completely different contextualized film compared to Fight the Future. And I actually like the fact that we've got two very different films. I wouldn't necessarily say I like one over the other, to be fair, if I'm being honest. I think both are kind of like on par with each other, but for very different reasons. And I find that that's fascinating in my own personal perspective of it, because it's just great, but both for very different reasons. But I think if we focus purely on Scully, on what you feel about that, about the way that the pressure it does build up, and the whole don't give up thing, because it is certainly an interesting way of looking at it, especially with that Catholic presence.
You're talking about something like, Catholic guilt, right? That's one thing. But the other thing is Scully, some people, again, quibbled with the don't give up. And Scully responds very viscerally to that. Like she's really upset that he said that to her. And you have to ask yourself, why? Does she feel that she gave up on William by giving him up for adoption? Is her hostile reaction to Father Joe's don't give up not because she doesn't understand how it pertains, because certainly she must understand how it pertains to Christian. Is it because she perceives it as an attack because there was a time in her life, maybe the most important time, maybe the most important decision, when she did give up, and that was William. And then, of course, there's the moment with Christian's parents where they're not meaning to be offensive, but the mom says, you don't understand because you're not a mother. And that's just like a knife. That is shivving Scully, because, oh my God, she is not, she is acting as a doctor, but how she sees this, God, she's a mom. She's a mother. That is like a wound cutting right through her to say that to her, because whether William is in her life or not anymore, she's his mom. And she's transferring. There's this major transference of all of those feelings for William to Christian. And that, again, so for her, if she did give up, and she knows she gave up, and she's so angry that Father Joe says that over William, then what she's enacting here is, this time it'll be different. This time I'm not going to give up. I won't give up on Christian.
It's the whole reason why we get to this point, though, isn't it? It's the whole reason why we're here. And the fact that now that Scully's scared because she has transferred and she has said that, and now the one she's transferred and feels that she's mothering has gone, now you look scared. It's at the time of like recognizing that it's flipped on its side a little bit for Scully to go, actually, this has now become a real thing now, and this is potentially, someone who she's transferred to in William, that she's scared that she's going to lose that battle, and the fact that she might have to give up.
And we know she's gonna do the surgery. This was not an easy decision for her. She doesn't know if it's the right decision. Is she making this decision because she feels emotionally as a mother, or is she making it clinically as a doctor? And what if he dies during the operation and it's her fault? I mean, just all these roiling issues there. So now you're the one who looks scared. Damn right, right? Because I've put everything. I've put my heart and soul, my reputation, my emotional stability on the line because of what you are to me. I mean, that's, it really is an incredible arc for Scully, I think.
Yeah, and I think we'll cross over to the 50th minute shortly. But I think it's really akin if we talk about like the reason why this was done, and then we can talk about minute 50. With the operation and the build up to it, because I think it's really interesting the way they build up to it. But at this moment, and for the film as well, I think it's the surgery on Mark Snow's soundtrack. I think that's what this piece of music is. But I like I said at the top of this episode, the vibe, the surgery music, the kind of the slow tempo, you don't really feel a beat to it. It's just kind of like sort of meandering and wavering and kind of very ethereal, very abstract, very kind of just thought-provoking. And the movie takes time to do that, and it does that right the way through the film. It's a very slow movie. It's not like you're saying, it's not like Fight the Future where there's a build-up. Yes, there's moments, and there's definitely intercutting, interplaying, and, when it needs to. But that's at the very beginning of the movie, which, it's kind of like that's your cold open, and it does like more of a meandering river as aspect to it. And the surgery aspect here is that it's letting you live in that moment. It's letting you live in the moment that she's just been told, now you look scared, and she's prepping. And that is almost putting you in the mindset of her brain, of Scully's brain, of going like what she's having to go through. And by slowing down that kind of concept of time, that you're allowed to think about it. And that's something that, you wouldn't necessarily have in a lot of movies. And I think it's done to such great effect. And is the perfect time to say Mark Snow's soundtrack in this is probably the best work he's ever done for me personally. And I think Surgery and Home Again are two of the best songs in his career.
The soundtrack, the music to the X-Files is almost a character in the X-Files. So you can't separate it from, you can't separate it from the story. You can't separate it from the X-Files. It's, it's immersive. And, what you're talking about is becoming so immersed in something that it extends the moment, like, an extended moment of now. And there are filmmakers who do this. Mira Nair, who did films like Mississippi Masala, The Namesake, things like she does this a lot, like where it's like you slow down into a moment and like live in that moment. In the genre, they actually did that with special effects in Star Trek Insurrection in 1998. The aliens, they were reckoning with sort of slow down time, and you could live in a moment and sort of fully experience that moment. That was a science fiction kind of tangent of this. But I think what you're talking about here is this sort of perfect fusion of montage, of sound, of imagery, of character, to where like suddenly we're in it. Like it's happening around us. And I don't know exactly how to say this without sounding goofy, but it's like almost some level of our consciousness is shut off because we're just in that moment.
Yeah.
We're not thinking about everything else. Like we're there with Scully. This is the passion of Joan of Arc. This is the, this is the passion of Scully. This is it. This is where she becomes miracle worker, magician, lifesaver, whatever you want to say, where she's just in it. And we have that sort of perfect montage, I think.
So we'll call that a day for this episode. Next episode, I don't actually think there's a single word said. So we will go into that and we'll see how we transpire. But there is some things I feel that we need to talk about. So we'll go and do that. So come and see us next episode. And until next time, as always, trust no one.